We've got Jim coming on in just a moment. Jim is he's pretty much the guy to go to when it comes to knowing how and when to use dates. And I might actually give us just a couple of minutes, but see if we can get you started right on the hour. So this way,
Very
give
good.
everybody a chance to just kind of settle in, get more water, stretch legs. Yeah.
Very good. Vince, you're incredible. I hope to be as entertaining. I know I won't be as entertaining as you, but I hope to put on a good presentation. That was wonderful. That was just great.
Thank you, Jim. You are a force of nature in the best possible way. So I'm sure we're gonna be dazzled by it.
Absolutely. Every conversation I've ever had with Jim has kind of really been impactful and it's definitely led me to kind of get some really cool ideas and some inspiration. But I'm going to stop yapping. I'll give everybody a chance to just kind of go out, get settled, and we'll be back in just about 5 or so minutes. See you then. All right, folks. Let's get everybody back. Cool, we've got Jim coming online right now. Let's get you going. Definitely something that I'm really cognizant of, especially right now at the end of the year. Where it's going to be so easy to create some of these date disasters. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and hand over to Jim so he can go through and start his presentation.
Hang on just a second.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. And I want to do one other thing here. Okay. Hi, everybody. Hey, first, thanks for allowing me to present today. This is the third time I think I've been at the Fringe Festival. Absolutely love presenting to this group. And as Cesar was saying, today we're going to talk about dates, but they're not that kind of dates. We're going to talk about fiscal years. We're going to talk about doing year-over-year calculations, year-to-date calculations, doing metrics with fiscal years. And if you work with fiscal years, you know that it's a little different than when you're working with calendar years. First, just a little bit about me. I know some of you from the forum, where I've been a 6-time ambassador out on the forum. I'm also a 2-time visionary. I hope there's some of the newbies out there. If you've ever been out to the Tableau newbies group, Klaus and I co-founded that group, and we co-lead that group. I also co-lead the Nashville Tug. And it's kind of important for you to know that I am not a data scientist. I'm an engineer, so I kind of look at things maybe a little differently than some of the people with an IT background, and that comes across in the work that I do. I live in Nashville, and I live there primarily because of these 3 guys. I have 3 grandchildren in Nashville. My son and his family live down here, and I have another son who lives in Seattle, and he and his family, they're planning on moving this summer, and I hope that works out because they're planning on moving closer to us. But the real star of the show is this little one. She's going to be 3 in February, and she's got Grandpa wrapped around her little finger. Just one thing I like to do when I'm not involved with Tableau, and as my wife would say, that's not too often, but when I'm not doing some things with Tableau, I am a triathlete. I think I still get to claim that, even though I haven't raced in a while. And I'm a 3-time Ironman finisher. But today we're going to talk about fiscal years. And well, what's a fiscal year? A fiscal year is usually set up by your accounting department or a finance department. And it's any year or any calendar that you're going to use that doesn't start on January 1st. And here in the US, it's not uncommon at all for manufacturers or retailers, or manufacturers who work with retailers or retailers, to have a fiscal year that starts at the 1st of February. And there's some inventory tax laws that get involved here, but it's not unusual at all to have a 1st of February fiscal year start, or maybe a multiple of that, like 6 months away from that. And typically you'd say, well, gee, Jim, that's pretty easy to create a fiscal year. All I have to do is go out here and I can take a look at we can create a fiscal year just by opening up the year, going down to default properties, fiscal year, and selecting July. And we're going to use July as the start of a fiscal year pretty much throughout the book, but I'm going to show you how we can change things around here. And we select July. And when we do that, we can see the 1st of July this year started fiscal year 2023. So July the 1st, 2022 started fiscal year 2023. It also started the first quarter of the new fiscal year, 2023, and it also was July. And if we take a look at all of that Superstore data and we laid it out against the fiscal calendar, you can see all the years start in July and run through June. And you also know that we don't have any data here for the first 6 months of fiscal 2019 or the last 6 months of 2023. And that creates some issues when we try to calculate variances. And one of the things we're going to talk about today is how you do year-to-date calculations and year-over-year calculations. But if I were to just simply come in here and try to do a year-over-year calculation and a variance calculation just using a quick table calculation, you see I'm going to get this blank column, and we always get that blank column, but you also see here, because we're only working with half a fiscal year here, these numbers just don't make a whole lot of sense. And what typically happens, and we see this also with users who use a calendar year, is they don't really want to see this blank column. And here with the fiscal year, these numbers don't make a lot of sense, but these numbers in the center are correct. These numbers are only half-year calculations. So the question comes about, and we get these questions a lot, and say, I'm using fiscal year and I can't seem to get my year-over-year calculations to work out. And what they'd really like to see is they'd like to be able to take the current fiscal year and the prior fiscal year and calculate the variance, and then go on and take quarter over quarter for the fiscal quarter, and also the current fiscal month versus the prior fiscal month, and look at the variances on those. And it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to do that. I want to take a look first at how we go about doing that in a calendar year. Now, maybe some of you have come out and you've asked a question on the forum, and you say, well, hey, I've got a year and I want to calculate my year to date, and I'm using a regular calendar year and I can't get the dates to work out, and I want it to end either today, or I'm going to use a parameter for the end date, and I want to calculate the current year to date. And you'll usually get a response back from me anyway that says, look, create a parameter, or you can use today, for example, but create a parameter so you have a fixed endpoint. And then we're going to use a calculation. And all we're going to do is we're going to look at that parameter, and we're going to take a look at the order date, and we're going to make sure that the order date is in the same year as the calendar year, or as the end date in your parameter. And the order day, the day of the order, is less than the day of the order in your parameter. And we're going to sum all those, and that's going to be our year-to-date calculation. And it might look something like this. Here's our current year-to-date, and I'm going to show you the prior year-to-date. This is the same calculation. The only change we've made in this calculation is we've come back and we've said, well, wait a minute, I'm going to take that end date that the user selected, and I'm going to decrement it. I'm going to go back 1 year, so I'm looking at the prior year, the same end date. And then we're going to check, and we're going to, the same calculation, I'm going to look to see that the date, the year of the order is 1 year prior to the parameter date, and the date of the order is less than the 1 year less than the parameter date. So I can get the current year and I can get the prior year, and calculating the variance is no problem at this point. We just take the total of the current year minus the total of the prior year divided by the prior year. And we all know how to do that. That's not difficult to do. And the reason we're able to do that with calendar years is because dates and date time inside Tableau are very special dimensions. The date itself is based on a number that's hidden away down inside Tableau. And I'm going to tell you, it's the same process that Excel uses, Google Sheets, any spreadsheet calculator uses the same type of process. And that number represents and can be broken down by a hierarchy that includes the year, the quarter, the month, and the date. So when we take a look at a calculation that looks like this, when we're looking at date trunk year and date trunk day, what we're actually doing is we're looking at this part for the year and this part for the day. And that's great, it works. No problem at all. Calendar years or calendar dates know how to self-sequence, and they know how to self-sort. The problem is it doesn't work with fiscal years. There is no calculation like this that works with fiscal years. So somehow we've got to come back and create a calculation that's going to do the same thing. Well, what I'm going to show you today, and the way that I go about doing this, is I create a 10-digit string. It's text data. And that text data, those 10 digits, the first 4 of those are going to be the fiscal year. And I'm going to show you how we're going to do this. The next two are going to be the fiscal quarter. The next two are going to be the fiscal month, and the last two are going to be the fiscal date. So we can create that for every date that's in our data set. And the beauty behind using strings is that strings will sequence and sort by an alphanumeric sequencing and sorting, and that lines up exactly with calendar dates. So we can use this string just like the calendar date is used when we do a year-over-year or year-to-date calculation, but using calendar years. But we can use this string for fiscal year. And for example, here on the, if we were to look here at the 15th of July, and we're starting on July the 1st, the 15th of July is fiscal year 2023. It's in the first quarter, it's in the first month, and it's in the first day. Now you're going to say, man, this is a lot of stuff to absorb all at once. Don't worry. Caesar's got links out to my website and also out to my blog where you can download all this information, and everything is in there and all the calculations are in there. So you don't have to worry about that. You just download it and it'll be good. So now we're going to create this string. The first thing we have to do is we have to know what the end date is or what the start date is for your fiscal year. So all I did was create a parameter, and the parameter is in integers 1 through 12, 1 for January, 12 for December. So we know what the start date is going to be. And then using that start date, we're going to come back and we're going to calculate a fiscal year. And all this says is, look, if the fiscal month is less than the month for the fiscal year, then use the order date for the fiscal year. If it's greater, then we're going to increment by 1. Remember, July of 2022 calendar year is actually 2023 fiscal year. And that's all this calculation does. And this does the same thing for month. And we take a look at the month and we see where the actual month on the order date is compared to the fiscal month start. And if it's less than 0, then we have to account for it being the previous year. So it's 13 minus the month. So we'd be in month 12 or month 11 and so on and so forth. We do the same sort of thing for day, and we create it as a string. So I want 2 digits always for either the quarter or the date. So I just drop in a couple of zeros here, and then use the string date in the string quarter. Once we have that calculation, we can create our fiscal year start date. And I'm going to open this up so that we can just see that a little bit. Oops. We can open that up. And all we're going to do is we're going to create this 10-digit string. Based on that fiscal year start, we're going to take the fiscal year, the fiscal quarter, 4 digits here, 2 digits for the fiscal quarter, 2 digits for the month, and 2 digits for the day. So you can see here, like January 11th of 2019 was fiscal 2019. It's in the 3rd quarter, it's in the 7th month, and it's the 11th day. And if we were to look down here, we could see that the 26th, for example, is still fiscal 2019. It's the 3rd month, or the 3rd quarter, the 7th month, and the 26th day. And these will respond to, if we were to change this, and we were to look at August, we can change these. And you see that dynamically, this reads the start month for the fiscal year and makes the adjustment necessary. So now we're partway there. What we've done is we've taken every order date, every calendar date that's in order, and associate it with the fiscal key, this 10-digit string. Now we want to go to the next step. And the next step is going to be, we want to calculate the year to date for the current year and the year to date for the prior year, month to date, quarter to date, that sort of thing. And to do that, we need an end date parameter, just like we did with the calendar year. And all we're doing is creating a date parameter that'll take any date, and we'll accept any date into that parameter. And then, no surprise here, we're going to create another 10-digit key. And this 10-digit key is just for this date, which is our end date, the parameter we just created. And it's the same format, and you go through the same type of calculation. We take the first 4 digits are the fiscal year of that end date, followed by the fiscal quarter of that end date, the month of the end date, and the year. And because this is a parameter, it's one value, it's the end date we're going to use for our current year, it's got the 10-digit key for that is going to be constant. And for what we're doing here, our end date is July 31st, 2021. And that's going to be fiscal year 2022. It's the first month because we're starting our fiscal year in July. This is the last day of that first month. This is the first quarter, the first month, and the 31st day. Okay. And that's all this does. Okay. Now we're going to come back and we're going to replicate that formula that we used before, where we're going to total all the days or all the sales in the current month or in the current quarter or the current year. This is our end key. This is what we just looked at where we created our end date key. And all we're going to do, just like before, is we're going to compare the fiscal year of our order date key, if you will, with the fiscal year of our end key. And we're also going to compare the fiscal date key with the end date key, just like we did before. And if it's less than, if they're in the same year, and the date is less than our end date, we're going to record the sales. And this does that same thing on the monthly basis. We check we're in the same month, we're in the same year, we're in the same month, and the date is less than our end date. And then it's going to be, we record the sales for the month, and we would do the same thing for the quarter. And we'd end up with something that looked like this. We're going to take a quick look here and show you how this works. And like I said, you don't have to remember any of these formulas. You don't have to jot them down. You're just going to download it directly off of my website. Let's take a look at the current month. This is the same formula we were just looking at. And this just says, look, it's the fiscal year is the same as the fiscal year of this end date. And the month is the same as the end month. And the date is less than the date in the end parameter. Then record the sales and total the sales. So when we have a July start for our fiscal calendar and a July 31st end date, we get the entire month of July, and that is this number that you see here. We would do the same thing for quarters, and all this does is check to make sure that the end dates they're in the same year and they're in the same quarter, and then we'll total the sales. And because we've only got 1 month, the value is the same and the same for years. But this, we can change our end date. If our end date is actually like the 31st, for example, or the 31st of August, now we have 2 months. So the month-to-date sales, the quarter-to-date sales, and the year-to-date sales. And just to show you that this works properly, we're going to go backwards now. We're going to just pick an arbitrary day in July, and we can see that sure enough, we're calculating our current month-to-date, our quarter-to-date, and our year-to-date. And because these are all calculations that are, they're not table calculations, but they're all simple calculations, we can look at those and we can put them any place we want in our chart. And we can use these as our current month-to-date, quarter-to-date, and year-to-date sales, which gets us halfway to our goal. We found our current values. Now we'd like to come back and we'd like to do the same thing and calculate our prior year values. And this should be no great surprise. We're going to start by creating a prior year end date key. And if this is the same formula we used before, the only change we're making in this formula is we're looking back 1 year. So we're decrementing that key by 1 year. And then these formulas are, this first year-to-date formula is the same. We're going to take a look at the fiscal year to make sure that we're not looking at the prior year fiscal date that's coming off this key right here, and that the day is less than the prior year end date, just like we did before. We're going to record the sales. Now, when we get to month to date and quarter to date, we have to manually make the adjustment for what happens when we're working with the first day of the new fiscal year, the first month of the new fiscal year. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to check to see, hey, if our current parameter, our current end date parameter is the first month of the year, and we're going to go back 1 month, we have to go back not just 1 month, we have to go to the 12th month of the prior year. And that's all this does. All this does is look and it says, hey, wait a minute, if I have to go back 1 year because I'm going to the 12th month, and we started at the first month, our fiscal year start is going to be July. And if I have to go back to a prior month, to June, I have to go back also 1 fiscal year. So I'm going to go to the 12th month and the prior fiscal year. And if that's not the case, I'm still in the correct year. And this just does the same thing for the quarter. And I know it looks involved. You'll download the workbook from my public site, and it's got all of these formulas written out in there. And quite honestly, you don't have to go through and determine them. They were kind of tough to determine, to be just totally honest with you. Okay, now I'm just going to set this back to July because it's a little easier to see. Okay, now these are the numbers that we calculated before. This is our current year, month to date, current quarter to date, current year to date. Now I want to calculate the prior month to date. That's the formula we just looked at. This formula we've checked to make sure that we go back 1 year if we have to. And if not, we're going to use the prior month. So for our month ending, our current year end date is the end of July. We're using a July start date. These are the numbers we saw before. We're going back in 1 month. So sure enough, we're going back to June, and it happens to be of the prior year. And if we were to come back and we were to take a look at the quarter to date, once again, we're looking to see if that's the first quarter, and if so, we have to go back to the prior year quarter. And that's what we're seeing here. Okay. And the same thing for the year to date. And just to show you how this would work, if we're looking at 2 months now, we've got month of August is our current month. Well, the prior month would be July. And oh, yep, there's July right there. And we're in the first quarter here. So we'd want to be in the 4th quarter of the prior year. And yep, this is the 4th quarter. It's going to start here in April. This is the 4th quarter of the prior year. And year to date, and we're going to go back year to date, August and September, August and September. Yeah, we've gone back and we're looking at the correct year to date. And just to show you that this does actually work, we'll go back and we'll take a look at an arbitrary case in June, and we're looking at the prior year sales, current year sales, prior quarter sales, current quarter sales, prior month sales, current month sales. So now we've got almost everything we need. We've got our current year values, we've got our prior year values. So now we can do a variance analysis, except there's one additional thing we want to do. Very often users will come in and say, hey, I don't want the prior month. I want the same month in the prior fiscal year. We're now in December fiscal 2023. I want to see December fiscal 2022. I don't want to see November. I want to see December of fiscal 2022. They're just two different formulas. All this does is it looks to see that the fiscal year is equal to the prior fiscal year, and we're going to look at the same month, and then we're going to total our sales during that month, and this will do the same for the quarter. And we can look here. I'm just going to change this back again to July. Okay. And if we were to take a look at the prior year, this is prior year month to date sales. This is that formula. I want to look back the same month This is the current month. I want to look back the same month, but I want to look at the prior fiscal year. So we've gone back a whole year, not just 1 month. And we'll do the same thing for the quarter value, and that would get the values that you see there. We can look at, and just once again, to very quickly show you that this does work. In fact, here we look at the quarter and we're looking at the prior year same quarter sales. When we do that, we now have all the values that we actually need. We've got the current year month-to-date sales, quarter sales, the prior year month-to-date sales, the prior quarter sales, and we can create that chart that we wanted to create. We wanted to look at the current year to date versus prior year to date, the current quarter to date versus prior quarter to date, and the current month to date versus prior month to date. The only thing we need to do, in addition to what we've done so far, is to calculate the variances. And the variances are very simply, we take the sum of the current year minus the sum of the prior year divided by the prior year sales. And we've all done that sort of calculation, and then we express it as a percent of sales. Well, that's a lot of work, okay? We can calculate our year to date, quarter to date, month to date, and do the month over month. It takes a lot of work to get there. And if you work with fiscal years, you know that. You've dealt with that before, and it's been difficult to do. Fortunately, I've done all that work for you, and you can download all that information. And I think Caesar's going to put this into the. I'm sorry, is going to put these links into the chat. You can download that information right off my blog. You go out to my blog, and I've got a piece out there called Fiscal Year to Date and POP, or you can search for it. You can just search in the search window here for fiscal date, and you can pull this up and download it and read it. It's got all the calculations and all the explanations in it. This workbook, or a workbook very, very close to this one, is already sitting out on my Tableau public site, and you can download it at this site. And it looks like this. It's very colorful, but it says the same thing. It's the fiscal year and fiscal year metrics. I thank you very much for this opportunity. I saw some things going on in the chat. I don't know, Caesar, if there's some questions, I might be able to answer them.
For the
Pretty
most
much
part,
used up
really,
the entire hour.
Really, it was a lot of folks saying just how helpful this is, and really how much it will help them. It's a technique I've never seen before. I love it.
Yeah.
Being able to break that into a 10-character text string, and it really will help out when it comes to this.
Yeah, I'm not, I'm not all that smart. And I told you I was an engineer, so I had to go back to how it was done in a calendar year. And I said, well, okay, fine. How would you replicate that? What would you do to make that sort of thing happen? And that's when I hit upon this 10-digit string. And the only thing you need to know there is that strings and dates do self-sequence and self-sort, so that you can set these limits, and then you can start totaling in between there.
Excellent.
I do
excellent.
thank you. I realize I have exhausted the hour, and thank you very much for allowing me to be with you today.
Very much so, Jim. Anytime. We're always happy to see you. And like you said, you're going to go the full length, and you did it. And anyone who's got questions, we'll let Jim on the panelists, so he can actually go through and reply back to the chat for a little bit here. Yeah.
Okay, there's one I have to reply to right now. Kevin, boil it up. He understands what I'm talking about. Okay, very good. Thank you, guys.